WCW Monday Nitro, June 29th, 1989, Tampa, Florida, from the Ice Palace.
Can we just start with the beginning?
Right off the bat.
They announced that DDP and Karl Malone are on their way. They left 4 days ago.
From Salt Lake City, Utah.
Driving a semi-truck.
That's the only way to go.
Why? Why did they drive to this show? And why did they drive to this show in a semi-truck?
Can
anybody explain to me?
There's nothing better than doing a cross-country road trip in the East.
In the what?
In the East in June. Salt Lake to Florida.
Okay, yeah, so heading east.
Yes, heading east, where it is sweltering.
But hey, they were in a semi-truck, dude. I'm sure it had great AC and a hell of an AM radio. This is the stupidest thing I ever saw in my life. Why?
I wonder what Karl Malone's handle was on the CB radio.
Mailman 316, I'm sure.
Okay. Oh, boy. Anyway, Gene Okerlund brings out Kevin Green, who traveled with them, I guess.
This was another nightmare of a show. Except one was like a great nightmare. The other was a terrible nightmare.
Anyway, Green is all jacked up. He's talking about the upcoming tag team match at Bash of the Beach with Bill Goldberg against the Giant. And what's his name?
Yeah, what's that other guy's name, he says? And at first I thought, okay, so you're doing the thing where you pretend like you don't know the guy's name.
No.
But he said it so sincerely that I'm confident that Kevin Green had no idea who Kurt Hennig was.
He had no clue who Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig was. That was called a faux pas. Anyway, we're off to a great start. First match in, we got Kanyon versus Horace.
Hey, this was better than a lot of their openers lately.
That's true. You know what? Horace had the dirt worst match on last week's show, and this one was...
It was good.
Moderately good.
It was a good match. Horace actually hit a tope.
He did.
Kanyon did all of his moves.
All of them.
And he beat Horace. And it was totally fine.
Kanyon made a comeback with a swinging neck breaker out of a fireman's carry into a flapjack and a flatliner for the win. It went 407. After the match, Billy Kidman and Sick Boy attack Kanyon, and he dispatches of them quickly, but Riggs hit the ring and got the upper hand. This brought out Raven, and he walks in and delivers the even flow DDT. There you go.
Kanyon was a stupid babyface here. He laid out the flock and then turned and paraded around to the fans, and then they jumped him again. Right. What an idiot. He was dumb in this match.
They show clips of the Big Rig making their way to the arena.
Oh.
Apparently they were in another state when the show started, I guess.
Dude, I don't know what was going on. They I don't know. I can't even explain it. It was so stupid, but here's what we got to get to. The NWO is backstage. They're passing around crowbars.
Mm-hmm.
They are planning a crime.
Yeah.
Backstage here on national television. When these guys get here, they're going to meet them with crowbars. They're going to beat the shit out of them, and they're going to destroy the semi-truck.
With crowbars.
This was on television.
Mm-hmm.
This planning of this crime.
Right.
Well, keep that in mind, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Because the payoff is amazing. So then we have clips of DDP explaining that he and Karl Malone were driving this 18-wheeler from Salt Lake City to Tampa, Florida, and the semi-truck was full of steel chairs.
Is that what they said?
That's what they said.
Wow.
And then, by the way...
You know, you need to get some extra seats there at the Bash of the Beach.
Sure. By the way, the announcers kept bringing back this during the show. I wonder what's in the truck the whole time after they said
because they don't know what's going on. Just like me when I watch this show.
Okay, they cut to NWO locker room. They're handing out the crowbars here.
Talk about Gene with Stevie Ray.
Stevie Ray.
Stevie was absolutely horrendous in the ring, as we were going to see later, but I loved his promos. Loved him. And he said that him and Booker wanted a match with Benoit and McMichael tonight.
Right.
And he says, we're going to see Harlem Heat at their very best.
Right.
And I thought, so you're not in the match?
Sick burn.
But he was in the match.
He was. Well, he was there physically. Then get Eddie Guerrero versus Little Dragon. This was Dragon Kid from Dragon Gate.
Yep, 6 months into his career.
There were
6 months into his career.
There were 5.
There were 5 Ultimo Dragon students on this show. All geeks.
I wish I could.
Every one of them was portrayed as a complete geek.
I'll give you that. They were portrayed as such.
Although Little Dragon did beat Eddie Guerrero because of Chavo and this goddamn stick horse.
Pepe.
This was the beginning of the end for Chavo. It was over from this point forward.
So anyway, Eddie had the match pretty much done. He went up for the frog splash. Chavo comes down to the ring riding the stick horse Pepe. This annoys Eddie and most of the viewers, and he grabs Pepe away from Chavo. This results in a tug of war over Pepe. The Little Dragon rolls up Eddie for the win.
People in wrestling love these gimmicks where a guy's crazy, but it always kills the guy.
Hey,
Like this was utter death, this goddamn stick horse gimmick.
they gave Saturn a mop.
Well, it's coming up later. It killed him too.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, Chavo calls Eddie a horse thief. Comedy. Eddie beats up the Little Dragon with the horse and tosses him and Dragon out of the ring. Now Eddie chases Chavo to the back of the locker room, and Chavo gets on the horse and rides away. How this didn't kill Eddie in his career?
Because it was Chavo riding the horse, not Eddie.
Yeah, but still.
And Eddie was talented.
We then get Giant. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Missed something. Backstage, a camera has spotted Chris Jericho talking to Ultimate Dragon.
Jericho so clearly no longer gave a shit.
Nope.
He literally starts by saying, "We're in a secret room and no one else is here."
Except the cameraman.
Cameraman filming them to national television. He does not give a shit. And
Why would he?
he says if Dragon beats up Dean Malenko tonight and destroys him, he'll give him a title match Thursday.
On Thunder, yes. We then have the Giant with Kurt Hennig and Rick Rude versus Judo Suwa and Sumo Fuji. Good enough?
Yeah.
Close enough?
Judo Suwa and Sumo Fuji.
Thank you. Anyway, this went 47 seconds and Giant won with a double choke slam.
Geeks.
Yeah, it was sad. Kurt Hennig picked up the mic and threatens Bill Goldberg and Kevin Green to come down to the ramp. Hennig calls him a big, dumb football player, and Green makes the charge, but as he takes off running, Goldberg steps out. They both hit the ring. Hennig bumps for Green's shoulder tackle. I put in quotes because I don't know what he did. He just hit him with his body.
As a tackle. I don't even watch football, I can tell you that. He tackled him.
He killed him.
Yeah, cool.
Anyway, Rick Rude nails him from behind. As soon as Goldberg steps into the ring, everybody powders. Amazing. That's how you book a babyface. Hogan was out next to talk about DDP and Karl Malone.
Hogan comes out and he says, "Hey, NWO's in the back, fixing to vandalize and destroy DDT," he said.
Yes, he did.
DDT and Malone's semi-truck. His voice is gone. I mean, they were trying to hype up the bash. You know what? It was weird because, it's the same thing we see every week, but there was something about this combination of Hogan and Rodman versus DDP and Karl Malone that, no matter how bad the show was, no matter how much people did or didn't care about Hogan, they were into this fucking match. That Tonight Show segment we're going to talk about here in a while, it didn't matter. They were into this match and they bought it. A lot of them. It was a huge success. Right guys, right time.
Anyway, Hogan refers to Dennis Rodman as Black Jesus, and he said it didn't matter because he would take out both Karl Malone and DDT tonight, and that's the bottom line because people worship and love him for life because he's just too sweet. Okay. And then the show hit a low.
May I?
Absolutely, it's your show.
This match was Luger and Sting versus the Anvil and the Bulldog. Luger and the Anvil took forever to do anything. And I was so infuriated. Mm-hmm. But then they actually did something.
Right.
And I was like, could you have just kept not doing anything?
Right.
They couldn't do a thing together. Then Sting and Bulldog stalled forever. Somehow the fans were still into the show at this point. Anvil was so beyond horrible. Like, they did a double clothesline spot. Anybody can do this. You run into each other, you both put out an arm, you both fall down.
Correct.
Anvil fucked it up, and they both go down, and then the weirdest thing happened, which I watched like 5 times, I still can't explain it. Mm-hmm. They do a double clothesline, and they're both down. And Luger's on his back, and Anvil's on his back. And then Anvil slowly starts to roll over. Uh-huh. And I could not for the life of me figure out what was supposed to happen.
Right.
But something went wrong, and Anvil tags the Bulldog, and Lex Luger, I swear to God, he stops selling, he stands up.
Yes.
He looks over at Anvil with the most disgusted look you've ever seen, and he just tags in Sting.
I called this an annoyed hot tag.
I mean, think this is Lex Luger. He's no Ric Flair.
No.
Lex Luger has had his share of average and below average matches. But Anvil was so bad that even Lex Luger broke character on national television with the disgust he had for this man. He tags Sting. Sting runs wild, pins Davey with the Scorpion Death Drop. I swear to God. Up until an hour later,
yes,
Anvil was the worst wrestler I'd ever seen in a match.
Absolutely.
That changed. And let me tell you something. If you would have told me after this match that there was going to be a worse performance on this show, I would have told you, no, it's impossible. No matter how bad anybody could be on the show, there's no way they could be worse than Anvil. I was wrong. But we'll get to that later.
By the way, this cluster went 8 minutes and 6 seconds.
It was the worst until later.
We then got Saturn versus Reese. And I scoffed at this match to begin with. I said, this is going to suck. And it wasn't that bad.
That's because you just watched The Anvil.
I'll give you that.
If you had not just watched The Anvil, this was horrible.
But the way that Saturn got to Reese and muscled him around. Reese, by the way, there was a point where Reese was on his knees and he was just as tall as Perry Saturn. Anyway, Reese picked him up for a press slam from his knees. So imagine that. Reese is on his knees. He picks him up and press slams him. This was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. Reese works the backbreaker. Saturn comes back with a missile dropkick. He kicks Lodi off the apron and then hoists up Reese for a Death Valley driver. It was awesome.
Saturn's manhandling of this tall man was impressive, but
yes,
Reese's selling was absolutely like... You could get any geek that likes wrestling but has never been in the ring, and I know they could sell better than Reese.
That's
and you know what? Reese was better than Anvil.
Yeah. And how long had Reese been in the business?
God damn this show.
Anyway, after the bell, the flock hit the ring. Saturn fends them all off until Horace hits him with a slam and Kidman splashes him from the top. Raven cuts a promo on Saturn saying his dad was abusive and it was all Saturn's own fault. And then Raven hit him with an even flow DDT. I'm sensing a pattern here from Mr. Raven. They then took us back to Monday Nitro when Kurt Hennig and the Giant attacked Kevin Green to set up the big match for the Bash at the Beach. Then we got the debuting El Vampiro.
You know, I read the Observer about this match, and Dave said, Vampiro's kicks looked great. I was like, no shit, he kicked the guy right in the face.
He busted his lip open with a kick.
Brad's bleeding all over from this kick.
How could it not look great when you make contact?
Other than that, Vampiro looked really good.
He did, and very lean.
Good. He looked good. He took good bumps. His kicks did, in fact, look good, except when they broke the guy's face.
Right.
And the Michinoku driver finish was awesome.
Michinoku driver 2, which he calls the nail in the coffin, 2 minutes, 26 seconds.
Should have called it the stake through the heart.
That would have been better, Brian.
Thank you.
You should do something right or something. And then I don't know why, but I really love this match. Alex Wright and Disco Inferno.
You did?
I laughed. They wrestled Tokyo Magnum and Shimu Naka. Help me out, Brian.
Shima Nobunaga. It's Shima.
Yes.
From
Shima.
Dragon Gate.
C-I-M-A. Shima.
Yes.
That's
but
what
this was before he changed it to capital C-I-M-A.
Yes. And that's what I'm going to call him throughout this report because I can say Shima.
Sure.
Anyway, again, the Ultimate Dragons students here. Alex Wright and Disco.
You know what you got to think about here?
Tell me, Brian.
This was a squash match featuring Disco Inferno destroying Magnum Tokyo and Shima.
Tokyo Magnum. Right.
It's actually Magnum Tokyo.
But they called him Tokyo Magnum.
I realize that. They also called him Shima Nobunaga, but you're not going to call him that, so I'll call this guy Magnum Tokyo.
Fair enough. Anyway, Alex and Disco both get separate entrances, but they kind of combine their music. It was weird. They come in the ring and they dance, and then Tokyo Magnum says, I have an idea. I'm going to join in. And I laughed. There was 3 geeks dancing in the ring, but then the 2 heels looked at Tokyo dancing and said, well, enough of this, and they beat him up. So they clean house so they can dance by themselves. Some pretty good action here, especially from the Dragon Gate students. Shima and Wright did some great mat wrestling to start off this match. Shima lands a nice springboard senton on Disco. Wright saves the pin with a missile drop kick. Tag to Wright, who plants Shima with a reverse neck breaker for the 3 count. Went 4 minutes and 30 seconds. I liked this match. It was fun.
It was all right. Crowd's dead at this point.
Oh yeah, the crowd for the last 3 matches have been absolutely dead, and they don't pop until the end of the show, unfortunately.
Let me take over for a little while.
Please.
Dean Malenko, Ultimo Guerrero, or Ultimo Dragon. So the crowd was trying to love this match.
Well, it was good.
It was really good for like a minute. The show is just like so horrible. And finally there's an opportunity to have a good match. And what do? They have Jericho come out, say something about Dean's dead father, and Dean chase him to the back and is counted out. Yeah,
it was sad.
Absolute shit finish.
Yeah, Dragon set up for the Super Hurricane Rana. Malenko turned it into a Super Gut Buster, and that's when Jericho came out and distracted Dean. So,
and now we had Booker T and Stevie Ray.
You missed something.
I'm sure it was important. Yes.
They showed clips from Thunder, and there was a spy camera, and the other 2 announcers blamed it on Tenay. There's a conversation going on between Benoit and Arn Anderson. Benoit wants to keep the 4 horsemen together. Anderson is not hearing it and saying, no, it needs to be put to bed.
That was not more important than this match.
I'll give you that.
I deliberately didn't even mention that.
Okay.
Booker T and Stevie Ray are facing Chris Benoit and Mongo.
By the way, not referred to as Harlem Heat. Ever once. They didn't. On the graphics, it read Booker T, Stevie Ray. It never read Harlem Heat.
Craig, you're driving me crazy. You're obsessing about bullshit. Let's get to the important thing here. Booker T and Stevie Ray against Benoit and Steve McMichael. Now, first off, you have Booker T and Chris Benoit in a match together. Right?
Right.
And then you have Stevie Ray and Mongo in a match together.
Right.
Why? Who was responsible for what happened in this match? First, they put Chris Benoit in there with Stevie Ray.
Right.
Now, listen, Benoit was a great worker. He wasn't that great.
That's fair.
Like, if you can't have a good series with Chris Benoit, like, I don't know what to tell you. So it's horrible. Then Mongo tags in. They get the heat on Steve Mongo McMichael. Now, Mongo can do some things well. He's a very enthusiastic talker.
Sure.
And when he's just like tackling guys like it's the football field, he's very good. But let me tell you what he's not good at. Selling. They put this guy in there. First, it's Booker versus Mongo. It's hideous. Then it's Stevie Ray versus Mongo.
More hideous.
Which is fucking horrifying. And finally, in the middle of this match, like, Mongo got so completely lost.
Yes.
He's in there with Booker T. I believe that Booker T was supposed to hit like maybe he was going to go for a spin kick and Mongo was supposed to duck underneath. But what happens is he goes for the damn spin kick and he hits Mongo. Mongo takes the worst bump I've ever seen in my life.
I wrote here that I've never before and never since have I seen a man fall as hard as Mongo does.
Because he got hit and he wasn't ready for it.
No,
and his brain thought, I just got to hit the deck.
Even his bumps, they look so hard for him.
Yeah, because he doesn't know what he's doing. He fucking collapses to the mat. They try another spot. Mongo is like on another planet. He doesn't know where he's at or what he's doing.
Might have been legit.
Taking the most horrible bumps you ever saw. And finally, they just send out Brett. And he comes out. He hits Booker behind the ref's back. Mongo gets the pin.
Yes, he does.
Steve Mongo McMichael, I swear to God, he was the worst wrestler I have ever seen in this match. Before, after, he was just bad. But in this match, I have never seen somebody as bad as he was in this match. I'm even talking like Survivor, Jenna, and Charmel, and whoever the absolute dirt worst jobbers we see on those NWA World Championship Wrestling shows. Steve Mongo McMichael surpassed everybody in terms of just an inability to do anything resembling professional wrestling. It was so bad.
It was really bad.
It was so bad. This will be the picture on the front page when I upload this show today. the freeze frame of Mongo taking whatever it was that he took after Booker hit him with that move.
Yes. Which is funny because you had two of the best wrestlers in WCW and honestly two of the worst in the same match.
Honestly, two of the worst. I mean, except for Anvil.
Yeah.
I mean, they are the two worst. And I will tell you, Stevie is better than Anvil. So, Mongo and Anvil are the two worst wrestlers in this company. I couldn't believe this. I couldn't believe WWE didn't just edit this off this Nitro episode for the sake of this business.
So then we get clips in the back. Jericho is trying to back out of the promise that he made with Ultimo Dragon to give him a cruiserweight title match on Thunder. He explained that I said if you beat Dean Malenko, you could have the match. You didn't beat him. Jericho claims that Dragon didn't get the job done. And then from out of nowhere, Dean flies into the dressing room, throws Jericho up against some lockers, and starts kicking the crap out of him. And then he turns around and sees Dragon, and he decides to beat him up too. And then Jericho flees, and Dean gives chase.
You know, I'm a big Jericho fan, but he was jumping the shark here. Like, the running and the screaming.
Screaming's a little much.
And just this feud that will never end with Dean Malenko. Like, it just keeps going. Like, where is it going? I'm over it now. And it just keeps going. And the screams as he runs away. He's like, Jericho's turning into a parody of himself on this show. I know he doesn't care, like nobody cares.
Yeah.
But
it worked for him.
Yeah, but my thought would be, like, if you don't care, you're still trying to get hired by the other company, and him running away from Dean Malenko and screaming, I'm sure that when he came to WWE and he had all of his critics, it was because they were watching this shit and not him having great matches.
And by the way, we haven't even got into Ralphus yet.
No.
So next up, it was something called NWO Late Hour. It's basically a spoof on the David Letterman talk show, Johnny Carson, whatever.
Leno.
Because
they were setting up for Leno to come in.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, your host, Eric Bischoff, who's accompanied by the beautiful Elizabeth. Band is playing in the background. The set looks, I wrote, expensive.
$70,000.
Good grief.
$70,000.
So Eric's guest tonight was Scott Steiner. I'm pretty sure Scott Steiner has gone up a shirt size in the last week.
Gone down a shirt size.
No, he went up because his shoulders are massive.
He went up, but his shirt size went down. That's the gimmick.
Yes, he was wearing a schmedium.
Now, here's the deal with Scott Steiner. This was historic. This segment was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely god-awful. But this was the week that he finally figured out how to be Big Papa Pump.
Yeah, that's true.
If you watched last week's show where he was on the movie set and he was just so shy and so quiet and they were trying different gimmicks like he's Hollywood Scott Steiner and all these other things they did, he totally hadn't got it yet. But on this show, like, snap your fingers, he figured it out. It went way too long. It absolutely died a death. But Scott Steiner was absolutely 1,000 times better here than he was the week before.
Right.
And then it was off to the races for this guy.
So they make fun of Karl Malone being on Rogaine commercials. Steiner talks about his next movie project. He said he'll show us his new co-star next week. Apparently they're doing this again because next week's edition of NWO Late Hour will appear.
Yeah, next week.
Yeah. I wrote, this is Eric Bischoff jerking off into a ceiling fan.
The irony of Scott Steiner making fun of another guy for Rogaine commercials was not lost on me. Booker T comes out to talk with Gene about Brett. He says he challenged Brett to a match, and then Stevie Ray steps in and tries to save his little brother. Stevie Ray thinks that Booker has gone soft and wonders why Booker just doesn't jump him in the streets like they used to do. Booker says he wants Brett in the middle of the ring to show the people that he is the best there is. Stevie Ray wants him to forget about the people. Brett shows up, accepts the challenge. He says, but he'll only make the match at Bash at the Beach with the TV title on the line. Booker accepts, so we get Brett and Booker at Bash at the Beach for the TV title. Then cut backstage to the NWO locker room. Hogan is venting to Bischoff, saying he's very upset that DDP and Karl Malone aren't going to show up tonight. He says it doesn't look like the semi is going to get here in time. Bischoff assures him that it's going to be like a night off. Don't worry about it, champ. And then our wrestling main event. Bill Goldberg, 104-0, versus Glacier. You know, they had Buffer out there doing the ring introductions, and normally I would fast forward the ring introductions, but I had to hear what he had to say about Glacier and Goldberg.
Got an introduction from Michael Buffer.
Yeah, but it was lame.
It was.
Like, actually, he had nothing to say. He just gave him his height and weight.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even say, like, from the North Pole or whatever he would have said. And then I was disappointed because it wasn't nearly as good as their last match. Goldberg sold too much.
Yeah.
And then just muscled him up, speared him, and jackhammered him. That's kind of lame.
He did hit like this crazy slam. Like Glacier got these really decent kicks in. And then in the middle of the kick, like Goldberg got him up and he went for like just a sidewalk slam. But Glacier was in this like weird position where his one leg was under his arm and the other leg was over his head. And Goldberg just threw him down to the mat.
Yep.
Anyway, this was great, 2 minutes and 46 seconds. And then.
You've heard that before.
Your humor's lost on me.
Not on everyone else.
Just like my humor's lost on you. Anyway. Hollywood Hulk Hogan and Eric Bischoff stormed down to the ring. They claim that DDP and Karl Malone are no-showing tonight.
These guys desperately needed a Titantron.
Oh, yeah. He says, doesn't matter. They're going to get their butts kicked at Bash at the Beach. Just as this happens, DDP and Karl Malone pull up to the Ice Palace in their 18-wheeler. The rest of the NWO are waiting there with crowbars and pipes and chains, and they see Karl Malone and DDP get out of the truck, and they had steel chairs, and like all 7 of them dispatched.
They vanished.
They ran away from a 7-on-2 fight.
Geek of the week right here. All of the members of the NWO. They spent 3 hours concocting a plan where they all got giant iron crowbars, and they were going to beat the hell out of these guys and destroy their truck. Malone and DDP get out with a chair, and they flee.
Yeah.
The show is so terrible. It's horrible.
It's illogical.
But I will say, when DDP and Malone storm the ring, Hogan is such a cartoon character.
Yeah, he's great.
Like, more so than even Paul Bearer. He looks to the left. He looks to the right. He gives a wide-eyed look to the crowd. He pulls Eric Bischoff in front of him. He sacrifices Eric Bischoff, tossing him to DDP, who then just boots him out of the ring. He then finds out that he's all by himself.
He's trapped in the ring.
And you can say what you want about Hulk Hogan, but Hulk Hogan was a mark for celebrities, and he would sell for them. Malone grabs him in a standing head and arm choke, gives him a body slam, gives him 2 clotheslines, and Hogan powders, and the place is going absolutely crazy for this.
Yep.
And the crowd, I mean, Rodman and DDP, or I keep saying Rodman, Malone and DDP cut this promo, and the fans are into it.
Oh, yeah.
After this horrible show.
Oh, yeah.
And it really hit me that, God, this is why there have been 19 years of WWF, it was WWF, WWE, WCW, all these promotions, TNA, trying to do stuff with celebrities. It's all because this one worked so big. And you know how many have worked big since this one? Virtually none of them. Tyson worked, Rodman and Malone worked, and keep in mind, they tried Rodman again later, and it didn't work at all. It's like the stars have to align with the right guys, the right time, the right level of superstar, the right storyline, and like 99 times out of 100, it doesn't work. But this one worked big time. They were so excited. Think about this. The match is Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman in a wrestling tag team match against DDP and Karl Malone.
At the beach.
Why should this get over?
It shouldn't.
But it did! And it got over huge, and the fans loved it, and this segment worked.
It really did.
As preposterous as it was, it worked.
To wrap it up, Malone tells Rodman that size does matter, and he should be expecting a diamond cutter in his near future. And he finishes off by stealing a saying I've heard somewhere before. He said, if you want some, come get some. And the show went off the air.
The 90s were all about cocks. You ever notice that? Like, all people talk about is their cocks, their balls. Like, DX is all about their sausages. Mm-hmm. Everyone's talking about how size matters. Like, Viagra just hit it big a few weeks earlier. Like, what is that? Why were they so popular in the 90s? What's changed?
You're thinking the penis has lost its glimmer, its shimmer. You don't think it is not what it used to be?
Definitely not what it used to be.
Okay.
Alrighty, let's do a song and we'll wrap it up.
Please.
They call me the Drifter. Whoa. But this song's about gender. Whoa. He used to be slender, now a contender. His veins are a-poppin', His pushes are flopping. Indians don't like gender. No. Canadians don't like gender. No. Ladies don't like the gender. No. Brian don't like the gender.
A fine performance there from young Adam on his own guitar.
Nicely done, Adam.
All right, everybody, that is it. We're going to wrap it up. Be back on Thursday with more. And that is it. We'll talk to you again after a while.
Good night.